to tell you 4 great insulators that you can use to insulate your house, insulate your concrete structure that you're building, which is the case for me, or insulate your chicken coop. Hi, I'm Angel. Thanks for stopping by. I on my way out to try to protect a outdoor oven mega sculpture that I've been working on, and so I've been racking my brain about insulation, cheap and available insulation, and I ended up buying some not so cheap insulation, and that's the first one I'll cover, which is perlite, which is a really light, it's like superheated pumice stone, which is a volcanic product, so it's a natural earthen product. The reason perlite is pricier than pumice is because it's superheated to basically like pop it so that it becomes even lighter. Because of that, it's pretty good insulation, and it's not water soluble, and so I just bought a bunch of bags of it because it was something I could think of that was manageable to put around my project without making a big mess that I can take back after I'm done if I need to, or I'll probably use it in other future projects, so I'll probably just hang on to it. It's a material I like to use in gardening and in construction. So number 1 great insulator to consider is perlite. It's also a great aerator for building soil, as a side note. Excuse me. Number 2 great insulator, which I did not get today, I thought of after I bought the perlite, and I was on a really tight time budget, so I didn't have time to run around and spend hours getting more stuff. I've already done a lot of that for this project, as with most projects. So you know, you got to budget your time and your money and all the resources. So I didn't end up going with this one, but it would have been my favorite for this particular use, and that is straw. Now, straw is an ideal insulator for, you know, it is water soluble, so it's not necessarily the greatest for your house, although actually embedded in mud, with the mud being the mass, it actually does make a fairly decent, well, in like straw bale houses, which is one of the forms of construction I've studied, it is actually a really great insulator, but you need to keep it dry, keep the moisture out of it, otherwise it turns into just a moldy mess. So that's number 2, great insulator, and actually quite cost effective if you like, I don't know if you're interested in insulation for housing, then look into straw bale housing, because if you seal it up right, straw bales are a really cost effective, really highly insulative material. So for cold climates, they can be, or for warm climates where you're trying to keep temperatures out or in, the straw can be a really great insulator. Number 3 great insulator is styrofoam. There's a lot of different grades of styrofoam. It's actually kind of toxic, not just kind of, it's toxic to the environment and to you if you breathe it in. It's not like it's not real, like this particular stuff is kind of the old school beaded foam, it's called. It came out of a friend of mine's garage insulation, and she was getting rid of the house and asked me if I wanted to come get it, so I did, and I usually try to embed it into behind stucco or concrete or something. It makes a decent, again, it's real easy to work with, comes in flat sheets, it's fairly inexpensive depending on how you get it. Sometimes you can find it used like this. So that would be number 3 insulator, and I'm only really mentioning it because I happen to have my car full of it right now, because that's what I had on hand, and it is actually, like, I forget how many R factor you get for 1 inch, but it's pretty decent for, you know, super light, super easy to work with, and light for transport, which can be a problem if you're putting on a truck, but in the car, or just as far as weight wise, is quite convenient. And as far as like getting it up on a roof, or in my case, putting it around my structure that's unfinished brick dome that I don't want to crush with a lot of heavy stuff everywhere. Like, my perlite is pretty light, and I'm going to use that on most of my structure is solid core cement, so I'm not worried about that. But the dome brick, I still want to be a little gentle with, so I'm going to actually encase as much as I can in this foam first, and then blockade it in with the perlite and then tarp that whole thing, or actually I'll tarp that and then block it in with the perlite. And I'm confident that will keep the hard freeze. We're just supposed to get down to like maybe 25 at the very lowest down here. It's kind of a hard snap freeze because it's bringing in some moisture, big storm, and then when the storm lifts off tomorrow morning, it's going to be quite chilly. Our first freeze of the year here in New Mexico. It's kind of exciting, or at least down in the lower parts. I don't know. I think they did get some snow last weekend or the weekend before up in the mountains. In fact, I know they did. And that is exciting because I got a pass to go snowboarding up there. Anyway, number 4 great insulator is glass. Ceramic is actually a surprisingly good insulator. If you're familiar with fiberglass insulation, those fluffy blankets that make you all itchy if you get it on you, that is actually glass. And it's interesting because it's not a great insulator like just a plain pane of glass. Is a silica just melted together like that is actually a terrible insulator. But or maybe it's just that it's so thin. Maybe it's not so terrible. I need to look more into that. But what I do know is that fiberglass, when you make it into a threads and fluff it up like that, or for my oven, I'm going to be using ceramic blankets, super high fire. They're rated for like 2,500 degrees. So they're not made to keep out cold. They're made to keep in heat, which is the same thing, really. Cold is just the absence of heat. You probably knew that. Anyhow, and if not, mind blown, huh? Just kidding. If you think about it, how cold space is and all that, it makes sense. It's really just the absence of heat. Any case, as far as we know, what do we know? Just a lot of things, but not everything. So, just enough to get ourselves into trouble, as the saying goes. Anyway, that's my 4 favorite insulators for today that are on my mind. If you have any to add, put that in the comments, would you? Share with us. I'm sure there are lots of others. I know there are. And if you know something about the R factor of any of these that you want to share, I would love to learn from you. So please share that in the comments. As always, there are numerous ways to connect with me on all the other social media platforms. So you can find links to those, as well as links to my eBay store and my Amazon books and my Reverb Nation music, and I think I got a hit or 2 on iTunes these days. Yep, at least 1 is on there. So anyway, that's all very exciting stuff that I am into. I would love to hear from you. Connect with me. Support me if you wanna. Give me a thumbs up if you have found this helpful or entertaining in any way, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Woo, I'm hitting the windy front of this storm. Oh, it's pretty out here. It's pretty stormy. pretty and pretty stormy. I'm a little late to the game with my stuff that I'm going to be trying to put up in the wind, but c'est la vie, such is life. It'll be what it'll be. This too shall pass. Till next time, I wish you peace, progress, prosperity, possibilities, productivity, lightheartedness, laughter, and playfulness.